So that is all of the sleepers in place now, and really pleased with how they've come out. Got one more job to do, which is going to be to drill and drive some oak dowels all the way through, almost to peg them in position. Right, so I've picked up some of this oak doweling. It's 25mm, so an inch in diameter, and I'm going to drive these down through the sleepers in order to stake them all together. With softwood we could actually do this with rebar or metal stakes, but oak's renowned for kind of eating through metal pretty quickly, which is why I've used stainless steel fixings and also the bolts on the bottom rather than just using rebar. That's why I use those stainless steel bolts to anchor into the concrete. Anyway, so oak dowel, that's why I'm using the oak dowel. So one of the challenges is going to be drilling these holes. I'll try it with the cordless and we'll see how we go. I'm going to use 25mm auger bit. I've had to buy a set so I can get a really long one to get all the way through the top 3 sleepers, and that'll be enough to drive this down. Then we'll cut this flush and finish the top. I'm going to drill 2 in the end of each and peg them through. Whenever you're working on this oak, you want to make sure you don't leave anything metal, anything steel on top for any length of time, because it immediately will mark the top of the oak. I'm going to get a test piece of oak now, and we'll have a go and see how straight this drills, and also check the fit, make sure this is nice and snug. Right, let's see how well this little drill does. Got another battery on the go. So we'll see how this goes. If this doesn't work, then I'll put it in the SDS drill with an adapter. And we'll take it pretty slow to start with, I think. So it's not kind of smooth sailing, didn't do quite as well as I hoped. So these drill bits were a budget option, and I did have to sharpen them really kind of before I started using them. So the cordless drill did an okay job, but it really just couldn't bite through, and I don't know, maybe it just didn't have the weight and the torque behind it. So I drilled a couple of shallowish holes with the cordless drill and decided that it was going to be better to get the chuck adapter and use the SDS drill. Yeah, that's a good fit. That's definitely not going to go anywhere once it's in. And like I said, the oak's going to shrink over time. It normally shrinks this way, so it's going to kind of clamp in on it, and that's not going to move. So let's get the other drill. Yeah, that's the slowest it goes. So as you can see, with that bigger drill, it worked much better, and even with a fairly blunt, cheap drill bit, it kind of bored its way through okay. So I started by marking out where I wanted each of the holes, because they're becoming quite a feature of the wall, and I think when we sand it all back, it will be quite obvious if they're not quite in the right place. So marked out and started making my way through the 3 sleepers in this part. I kind of went down probably 2.5 sleepers in width on this wall, and then on the other side where there's 4 sleepers I had to go down a bit further. Alright, let's see how this goes. I'm going to leave them a bit long and see if we can drive these down. Hit the bottom there, so we'll cut these flush. It seems to have made everything nice and solid, so I'm going to put 2 in each. I think what that'll do is kind of, it'll match up in the future with the peg joints that will be on the gazebo, and it's just kind of a traditional look, and much better than any just bolts or screws that would be in a lot of sleeper walls. So this is proving to be rather testing on my patience as well as the drills, and I've ended up re-drilling these. I drilled all the way through 3 sleepers and then took the oak dowel, but I didn't chamfer the front edge, I didn't taper it at all, so I think it just was probably off, misaligned by a couple of mil, and that was enough that it just wouldn't go any further. So I had to cut them off flush and then drill through the dowel so I can have another go at it. But it does mean these holes are probably a bit big, so we'll have to see how it works out. Just going to take the edge off. Probably doesn't need to be much. And when I can't tell if I'm going any further, I was putting a mark and then just seeing if it's still going down or not, which it is. That's the bottom, I think. Not too bad. There we go. That's a neat way of doing it. Right, I'm gonna go inside before I get rained on. So the weather was pretty horrific for the next few days, so I just did a little bit now and then and took some photos as I went along. But things really took shape pretty quickly, and really happy with the appearance of the dowel joints. And the next video will be following this straight away, and in that I'm going to plane and sand and sort out the edge detail on all these sleepers. So if you're not subscribed already, please do so. Otherwise, keep an eye out for that video, and I'll put a link to it as soon as it's ready. Thanks for watching, and remember, if you can, do it yourself.